We made the decision this year, we need a video. We were left with all of the hurdles. Oh, we can't afford one. I don't know who to go to. How do I know he's the right guy?
I've done some great videos in the past. I don't want to say that the people that I've worked with were in any way bad at what they do, but I definitely was at a point where everything that they were doing was the same across the board. So I could sit at one fundraising breakfast and then go to a gala a week later and I'm looking at the same video. And everyone in the audience, believe me, has been to numerous fundraisers. And if I think you're seeing the same video just with different people and a different message, believe me, they're thinking the same thing too.
I don't know other people who make videos. I don't know what their background is, but I know Chris's background. I've seen his work. It is really good. And even starting working with him was such a joy, because he got that it's not just like listing your programs and talking about stuff. He got that it's about people. It's about human stories, and that's what works. He understood our culture and how we present ourselves and was very true to that.
So when I approached Chris, I said, this is the story we want to tell. How would you tell the story? And we spent a good hour talking about how we might tell the story, what might be involved. Before we ever got to the point of talking about how much it was going to cost, I was more interested in someone who could tell our story well. We've worked with other video companies before, and they basically have said, okay, tell us how you want to tell this story. I was really excited because Chris was helping me work through the issues and the problems and the ideas to come up with how we'd tell the story, which was a much different approach than I'd ever had before.
Last year, the video that we produced brought in a healthy amount during our special appeal. It was the first time that our organization had actually done a special appeal. And the second year, with Chris's video, I was really surprised because we raised almost $40,000 to $45,000 more the second time around.
We recently had our annual luncheon, and we showed the video, and the response was overwhelming. We had our MC, Laura Yamada, who's an anchor at Q13 Fox, and she was just blown away. She said it moved her to tears, and she was really impressed with the quality of it. She said, who did this video? We had Mike James, a former board member who's a former anchor for King in Cairo, and Jim Larry did reporting for him. And he was really impressed, and he has been with us for many decades and said, out of all the videos we've ever done, this is hands down the best. It captures who we are better than anything we've done.
So our board didn't see the video until the morning of the event, and afterwards more than one of them came up to me and said that video was absolutely outstanding. I can use this now to really tell people why it is I'm volunteering and spending my time for this organization.
But I've also heard from board members new ideas about how to use this video. They're starting to think more strategically about our marketing and our fundraising, and thinking about, well, if I showed this at my workplace, what might that do? We've talked about actually using the video as a tool to recruit people to come to next year's luncheon. That some of our board members who work to get tables sponsored by their company might actually show this as part of the presentation and request to get corporate sponsorship from their company for a table. It's a great way to do it. It's a lot better than kind of a dry ask of, I'm involved in this organization, here's why. And I mean, that's really critical, their story as well. But to be able to show kind of the depth and range and quality of the agency, I think is really important.
So one of the ways that we've used the video beyond the event is we do a number of presentations, or we go out to talk to a number of our corporate donors. We actually have an employee group that does fundraising for group health. And they are always asking us, can you get us a fact sheet, or can you come sit down with us and talk about what you're raising money for? Because we have to go out and talk to other people, and we don't know how to tell the story. We're not fundraisers. And one of the things that we did quite recently was we sat down with a group of about 60 employees, all who are fundraising, on behalf of Group Health and showed them the video from last year and said, this is the type of thing that we raise money for. And afterwards we had a conversation about what are the messages that you heard? You know, what was so important about Group Health to this family? Why do you think giving money to this particular department within Group Health is important? And having them have a conversation about it. And as they began to talk about it, it was so fascinating because it was almost as if we had just built a little fundraising army, because they got it. They immediately got it after watching the story that, oh my gosh, Group Health is doing some amazing work.
So volunteers and board members and certainly staff are really inspired by it, and they want to use it in their presentations. They want to share it with even their family and friends. This is where I work, which now when you're working on really focusing on retaining staff, and it's so important, employee retention, to have them feel such pride about where they work and a professional piece that they can actually say to their parents who live across the country, look, this is where I work. It's really a benefit I hadn't counted on.
There are a couple large benefits that I think that I received in working with Chris. The first is that Chris understands I'm a fundraiser. So the fact that he knows how precious my time is and that he wasn't going to ask me to be involved in all of the little details with shooting was so important, because leading up to the event, I need to be out there talking to my donors and getting people excited about buying tickets. And that freed me up to do that. So huge benefit, I got to be a fundraiser first. The second benefit is that he really made a connection with the family that he interviewed, and in doing so, he made them long-term donors to us and to our foundation. And being able to tell their story in such a compelling fashion, in a way where, and you all know this, you're sitting at your event, you're watching the video, and people will not shut up. And all you want them to do is shut up and watch this video. I'll tell you what, this was the first video I did last year with Chris at our event, completely silent room. That's how powerful the storytelling was. And when you have 600 to 800 people that are glued to your video screens, that are hearing the message about why you're so important, that means they're gonna raise their they're gonna raise their paddle, or they're going to give you a lot more money than they thought they would when they walked into the room that night, because all of a sudden they're connected with you, they're connected with that organization, and they're connected with that family that they're hearing from.
So videos that I've done before have been less expensive than what 501 Video would charge for a video, but we got kind of what we paid for. In the beginning, I knew that we didn't have a lot of money to be able to spend on the good quality video that I knew we needed. But when we were ready, I went out and found what I thought was the best in the area. And that's why I wasn't surprised at the cost, but I knew that what would come from it would be extremely valuable and useful to us, and that's what I was willing to pay for.
I think spending this money, whether it's through a grant, getting a grant for it as part of capacity building, or it's talking to donors to help fund it, or it's a special initiative that you do, I think you got to do it. I think you have to do it. You know, we all have the same reaction at first. It's like, don't know if I can afford this. But as I said, you can't afford not to have it, because it's a tool that will take your organization further than trying to muddle along without one.